Those are nice,
Too
too.
fancy dance.
Okay.
All right, I guess start up the roll call.
Oh, yeah.
Jim?
Where's the notes? Usually use that just to remember all the names. Dave,
I'm here.
Otis,
Here?
Chris,
Here.
Mike,
Here. Tom.
and Tom Stearns, and Jim. Yeah, here.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Okay, any comments on the previous meeting's minutes? Or should we go ahead and approve those?
Really?
I saw them online.
Didn't print out in the packet.
I thought I saw them. Oh, no, those are chamber minutes, sorry.
It's about the back of the third page.
Yeah. Yes, I did see them.
Third, fourth. No, thanks.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any amendments to the agenda for this meeting? We have a motion to approve the agenda.
I so move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to the public hearing. We're beginning with a variance for Mark Severson to extend the existing net house to 0 feet from the property line at 109 Cornelius.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone this variance until they're able to be here.
Okay.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye. Just on that note, I did talk to Karen, and they regretted not being able to be here, but he's fishing. She had to take off. They thought their daughter-in-law would be able to represent him, but so nobody could make it to this meeting.
Quick question on that. Is there any way that they could give us a little site plan of what they're planning on doing? Because, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell. There's nothing in the packet.
I'll ask her.
Oh,
Man, what's the neighbors like in the back?
I mean, right now we've got a plot of what the lot is, but no site plan where the buildings exist and what they're planning on doing.
Pictures would be nice too. I went up there and tried to find it.
I took pictures today. I went up there and looked at it.
Yeah, I couldn't find it, but that could have been.
Right next to
It
Weaver's.
was in there,
So,
Okay.
but it's not in
This
there.
side of Weaver's.
Oh,
What's
okay,
that?
great.
No.
Yeah, that's what I
It's in there, but
thought. I
it's not
couldn't
in
find
there.
Weaver, so that's probably on the wrong street.
but
Yeah, we'll have we can have a site plan.
yeah, I took
next.
a few pictures up there and kind of get an idea, but without having a little drawing of what they're doing, it's kind of hard to.
I've got several pictures I've taken
Okay.
from all angles, from side angle, backlight angle. I'm able to
Okay.
get those
Yeah, that'd be
organized
great.
for you. Yep.
Okay, moving on, public hearing for a variance from Petersburg Children's Center to extend an existing 5-foot ramp from the front property line and construct a building addition 6 feet from the side property at 404 Dolphin. Open this up for comment.
You got a drawing of that here?
Yep.
Yeah, they gave us a drawing. It's a little faint in the packet, but
It looks like this.
Okay.
And then the letters were sent out to everybody, and we really didn't get any input or comments. The only comment we got was from the Public Works Director, which is in his
Yeah,
letters in the packet.
I think he's probably where they're doing this addition, the most impact is going to be on Public Works. So, and they didn't seem to have a problem with it. Dave.
Are we gonna have discussion now or wait till later in the meeting?
We'll have discussion. Is there any comments from the Children's Center?
If we do this expansion, we're including, we'll be able to take 20 kids off our wait list and have 20 more students be able to attend the center
Very good.
with this expansion.
And could I ask you, and I can't remember, the children's center was built in the late 70s?
I think it
originally?
was founded 70s, possibly 80s around there. I think
Yeah.
they started out at a church in the 70s and had built.
The building was actually
I think-
constructed in the
I
early
think
80s.
so.
Right,
I
okay.
think so.
Is it, I remember reading, I just couldn't.
Yeah.
It says in
I think it
77
was,
here.
I think
Is that-
that was when
I
we.
think I got something in 77, I'm trying to remember.
Okay.
It was a permit or,
Yeah.
And we're talking about, which lot are we talking about, or both of them?
it's all 4 of these they own.
Four of them.
Yeah.
For-
But the building's mostly on 103.
This is the trail that
Okay,
leads
between the
from,
church.
we're between me and this is where that grotto is, that rock grotto of the Catholic Church. And then they're proposing to come within 5 foot of the property line here, or of the
Well,
trail.
where's the stairway they're trying to do? There's
This,
stairways all around it.
yeah, this pathway, this drawing in 12 foot, this, just the deck and the stairway will remain, they'll just extend the deck so there'll be a door here. This deck, the stairway comes up and the ramp comes up here somewhere. So, they're just extending the deck, they're not necessarily extending the stairway so they can walk down.
You've talked to the Catholic Church, are they,
Yes.
they're supportive of this,
Yes.
right? Okay, that
Okay.
was my understanding, okay. That was my only concern.
I'll get you a better picture than that, it just didn't print out very well.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to one of the board members, or whatever they call them, in the Catholic Church, and they thought it was a great idea, so.
Yeah, they
Okay.
said they weren't planning on extending, and they just think it's a great idea.
Church council.
Any,
Church council.
any other
Church council,
comments
I'm sorry.
from anyone? Okay, I guess we'll move on to visitors' views related to agenda items.
I think you have to move to close the
good.
hearing.
Okay. Forgot that part. Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, visitor views related to agenda items. We have no views related to agenda items. Visitors views unrelated to agenda items. We have no unrelated views. Moving on to report of staff members. Liz, do you have anything on comp plan you want to bring up?
Yeah, they just released maps, draft maps, and so you probably saw them on your way in. They're hanging in the stairwell, but we also have copies. I just encourage you to take a look at those maps and provide any comments you might have. And their next visit from the contractors is probably going to be mid-September. That's what it's looking like right now.
Have we got any definite dates on that, or?
I think it's like the 21st to the 23rd.
Yeah, that's what I
but
thought they were saying, but I just.
something in there.
Yeah.
But we'll see when they finally nail it down. But I think
Okay,
that's
I
what
thought, I
it's
wasn't sure if they'd nailed it down definitely yet or not.
It's pretty close. They haven't
Okay.
bought tickets, but
Okay.
that's what it's looking like. Third
All
week,
right.
I guess.
Okay. Any other staff reports? Joe, anything?
Well, the only thing I've got that I'd like to bring up is is as far as zoning complaints is if any of you have heard or probably seen, listening to people about the motorhome on Sandy Beach Road. I'll bet you all have heard about that.
I haven't
As far
heard
as-
about it, but I see it sitting there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's a couple that bought that lot. They moved a motorhome in, and I said the engine wasn't cool before we were getting calls. There are a couple that's moving in, so I did call them right away and tell them that they were, kind of in violation of zoning ordinance out there, as far as camping. But there is a 30-day camping ordinance in place that you can, with the property owner's permission, camp on a piece of property for 30 days. They're just scouting it out. They're from out of town. They're going to build a house next year. So they're going to be out of there by September 1st, which was just a fuzz over 30 days. I think got to be 35, so we're not, whatever.
Yeah.
But if any of you heard of anything about it, it will be moved here this winter. They're going to probably bring it out to store it somewhere. They're going to leave it here for the winter, but they won't store it there. And next year they'll come in and set up and try to start building the house. But I just didn't want anybody. I thought that as the planning commission, you probably would hear, what are they doing? This isn't zoned for motorhomes, so they have been spoken to, and they're very, very nice folks and cooperative, so that's all I've got.
Thank you. So moving on to unfinished business. Since we've postponed the variance for the Seversons, let's move on to consideration of the variance for the Children's Center. Open that up for discussion.
I think we should pass it. The Catholic Church and Carl were the two people that I had
Yeah.
questions of, and since they both seem to be okay with it, I don't see any issue. I think it's very important.
Yeah, I don't see an issue with it. I was most concerned about Carl and then secondly with the Catholic Church. But it seems like I think it'll be a functional addition to the community. Any other comments? Dave,
I make the motion that we approve the variance.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You have to do.
You have to do the findings of fact.
I was going to suggest that there are findings of fact on the staff report, and if you read through those and agreed, you could make one motion and say that you.
Look at it again, but
Yes,
yes.
I read them and I thought it was quite well laid out. I don't have any, I would, since we're going to approve it, I make a motion that we approve the finding of fact that I assume Liz did this.
Joe did it.
Joe, really?
Yeah.
I'm impressed, Joe. Wow.
I serve on the board of the Children's Center,
Yeah.
so it was sort of a
Yeah.
conflict
Did
for me
you?
to do it, so
Yeah.
Joe
Did
did
you?
it. Yeah.
She recused
I
herself,
did,
so
I
I did
accused
it.
myself.
Oh, well, in that case.
Do you want to read it closer?
Yeah, no, I did. I thought it was, I was impressed. No, I make a motion that we approve the finding, that we use the finding of facts that Mr. Bertinoli wrote.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I-
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Never thank me, right?
Moving on to new business.
Thanks.
I gotta get back to my packet here. Schedule a public hearing for special use application from Bill Manish to construct a driveway within the Tango Street right-of-way at 710 South Nordic Drive.
You want some information, or?
I was going to suggest that we, again, since this is dealing with a right-of-way, ask for input from Carl.
I already have, and
You already have input from him?
I do.
Okay.
And it'll, I mean, when you
I mean,
have,
it'll be
when you have the
just
hearing,
at the
it'll
hear-
all
It'll be at the hearing. I
Yeah.
just was saying,
So we'll get
before the
input
hearing.
from Carl, Joe Nelson with utility, and then Glo
Yeah.
Wallen from the harbor's perspective for the hearing.
Okay.
And at this point, I didn't hear anything any major concerns, so I think
Okay.
it's safe to move forward and let's have the hearing and see where it goes.
yeah. Okay, is there a motion to accept this for a public hearing?
I so moved.
Second?
Second, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, second is scheduling of a public hearing for a conditional use permit for Kayla Pop to operate a home occupation at 704 Rambler Street. Any discussion? Do we have a motion to accept that for public hearing?
So moved.
All in favor, or second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And
Okay.
once we schedule this as a public hearing, then all the neighbors are going to be notified. and
Yeah.
That whole process will start.
That starts,
Yeah.
And then she'll actually come here and explain to us what's going to happen. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
It's a necessary operation.
Third one, consideration of revocation of a conditional use permit for Zach Incorporated, Aaron and Katrina Miller, to construct a net house at 106 Arnis Heights Drive. Discussion? Dave?
I assume you've talked to them?
Yes.
Sent them a letter? What do they say?
They, yeah. They were, last time I talked to Katrina, she came in, they actually applied for a building permit to build a small house on this lot. A week ago, and I called, or it was a little over a week ago, 2 weeks, anyhow, and I explained, they were pretty aware that this, without offense or whatever, that this permit will go away. I mean, she's knowledgeable of that, and
So they've decided to go ahead and build a house on the property?
well,
Well,
yeah,
They've
They
put
applied.
an application.
and
for
I
building
called her
permit.
last week and asking for a site plan because I didn't have a clear site plan. It was just a,
Yeah.
and so I haven't seen that yet. So, and the time frame is, I don't know. She didn't allude to that. So,
Mike?
Yeah, is there any way that we could make them remove all that stuff until they build a house? Or isn't that part of the ordinance that if they don't have a say a conditional use permit, they need to clear that lot of all that stuff so they can build a house anyway? And if they're out of compliance, then is that what you were thinking? Make them move all that stuff?
that would make the most
Yeah.
sense at this point in time.
Once they don't have a conditional use permit, then that property is zoned single-family residential, and storage is not an allowable use.
So
in
that's like a
single-family
nuisance
residential.
ordinance that,
Then it falls into the nuisance ordinance? Okay.
Yeah.
Dave, you got a comment?
So my assumption is that what they've decided to do is to build a small house there, and then they get around having to have a conditional use, or it's easier to get a conditional use permit than for the net house without its restrictions.
I can't
I mean,
read what's in
Yeah.
the minds.
well, that's, I mean, we
We
made
can
the
assume.
restrictions pretty onerous on that.
Mm-hmm.
But, so maybe you could clarify my thinking on this, because we've gone back and forth on this so many times, I'm totally confused. If you have a dwelling, then we give them, then our ordinance allows a net house without all the restrictions, or they have to get a conditional use permit for the net house? Again,
Well, yeah.
okay.
It's still, if it's a classified a net house, you could classify it a garage.
Into a garage.
So they could build a garage?
And
Yes.
there's size limits on what size garage they could
I
build.
Yeah, okay, I understand that. But in terms of boat trailers and junk, I mean, there's quite a few houses in town that have quite a bit of that. So what happens there? That's my question.
It would probably have to fall under the nuisance ordinance. If it got unruly and you got complaints, then you'd have to
Okay.
act upon it there. But other than that, yeah, it's been acceptable to put commercial gear next to your house if you have a house on the lot.
Right. And boat trailers and commercial vehicles and,
crab pots.
To a certain degree, yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
at this point in time, that's the way it is, yeah.
okay.
That's kind of the customary accessory use, that you've gotten that right once you've got a dwelling on the property. So then that storage is considered accessory uses as part of the dwelling.
This dwelling have to be occupied?
I think it has to have a certificate of occupancy, and be a dwelling, but
So basically, they have to build, and what's the size requirements? Because I know this is all going to come up, so we might as well talk about it now.
Well, this has come up, it's not the trend across
Yeah.
the country, it's
Yeah.
the tiny house syndrome. There is no
Okay,
syndrome. There is no the code that says you have to have one room, a minimum of 120 square feet, and pretty much it lays it out there. So if you you could build a 250 square foot home and call it a residence. It could be like an efficiency apartment
Right.
in a box.
Okay.
You
that's-
could do that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no size limit. I mean, 300-400 square foot homes are becoming, and you could build a 300-400 square foot home and call it a residence. Have a bathroom, a kitchen, and one room that's 120 square feet.
So as long as they have a residence, doesn't have to be lived in, then a lot of the issues that they were having will go away, correct? Some of them.
I think you would still apply potentially the nuisance ordinance, which is kind of neighborhood by neighborhood. So if folks in that area felt that things were out of control, they could write in and complain, and then we'd have to look at it under the nuisance ordinance.
Right.
But in general, across the community, we do allow people to store commercial fishing gear on their
Okay.
single-family lot. So
So then my next observation is just.
I don't want to give it a blank check. I said it was
right,
blank. Yeah.
No, so
Okay.
my next casual observation of cruising the neighborhood up there, it would take a pretty high bar of junk to be considered out of character with the neighborhood.
If you're
That's
referring,
your observation.
if
Yeah.
you're referring
Observation,
to
yes.
the neighbor's lot,
Not the neighbor's lot, but some of the other lots in
Yeah,
the
well-
Severson subdivision.
oh, Severson's.
Not
Oh.
Severson's or Weaver subdivision, sorry.
Well, there's only 2 lots up there with stuff on them that are zoned single family.
Yeah, no, those are the ones I was referring
And
to.
the other one that's zoned single family, there's supposed to be moved out of there by September 1st. That lot's supposed to be cleared, according to the agreement.
Mean Burrell?
Yes. He signed an agreement that said he would have that lot cleaned up by September 1st.
Right.
So that would be the other lot, and then, of course, the next lot over there is not the tidiest one, but that's industrial again.
Right, understand. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to feel that this is an issue we'll have to deal with in the future.
More than likely.
Okay.
Probably.
Does a lot of it spur with complaints? Is that what is the trigger?
That's what drives a lot of
Yeah.
the enforcement.
If it's not a violation of the ordinance, then yeah, you would need like 3 complaints at least from people living in that area to say, yeah, this is out of character of our neighborhood, and so to sort of get us to look at it.
So my question is, okay, we get rid of this variance that we spent half of our waking hours on in this board. I just want to make for sure that's whether that's what they, because we've been trying to work with them on this quite a bit. So, but I guess since they haven't indicated one way or another, then, I mean, we set a variance, we said it had to be done by this time. They haven't done it, that's pretty clear cut in my mind, then yeah, then that means they're not intending to do what they planned on, or doing what they said they were gonna do.
Well, they haven't even started putting up fences. So
Right,
That's,
They did investigate what a fence would cost, and it would cost prohibitive for what they were getting out of it, so.
Okay, all right, so that answers my question.
Mhm.
So in other words, it wouldn't be a matter of us contacting them and saying, okay, we'll give you another month, but we have to have something concrete done in another month. It's something that you feel that they're just not gonna do, period.
She has indicated to me that the fence was too expensive.
Okay, that clarifies it then, thank you.
And Aaron did the same thing too.
Okay, all right, all right.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah.
That's happened 3 times.
so do we have a motion to revoke the conditional use permit?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
I would suggest that you adopt findings of fact for revoking
Again,
the
is there
conditional
a,
use.
is there a motion to accept the findings of fact, written by Liz, I assume?
Yeah.
Revoking conditional use permit?
Although I found that the ones on the children's center are much clearer than.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, initiation of a rezone and subdivision of parcel 01006-442 at Hagen Drive and 12th Street. Open for discussion.
Once again, I'm totally confused. The picture that was supplied here with the blue, is that the lot they're talking about when you try and buy, that whole lot?
Yes and no. So that is the
Okay.
lot, the way it is subdivided
Okay.
right now. And
Right.
the borough would like to subdivide that lot so that on your photo, the far left we cut off the far left because they have indicated they don't need that portion, and then the 2 lots just to the north of that are owned by somebody else, and so you could kind of keep that corner intact. And then secondly, the lot is zoned open space right now, and it would need to be rezoned to commercial in order to fit the purposes for what Harriman Recon would really use it for.
This goes.
So they're talking about splitting off the piece behind those, Liz? Behind these
Yep.
2?
Yep.
And then where are they talking about developing on that?
So right behind where they
Just
are now.
behind here?
Mhm.
But not along this edge? Or,
I think it's a driveway along this edge,
okay.
and then expanding out behind here.
It'd be
So
nice,
the
it'd be
idea
nice
would-
to have a little more detail of what
They
they're
have,
thinking about doing.
they do have plans in the works, but they don't want to necessarily invest a lot in plans until they
Yeah.
know that they're going to be able to purchase property to.
Well, I was just wondering
Create those
if they were going to basically fill and utilize that whole space, or what their plan was.
Yeah, they're not buying it just to have it. They're buying
Yeah.
it to fill it and use
Okay.
it. So, so what they told me was they have a real problem loading and unloading right now where their containers are, and kind of moving in and out of that parking lot with people
Yeah.
and kids and dogs and everything else. And so they'd like to move their loading and unloading operation to the backside, and so they would expand out and then move the trucks in and out on the backside and get them out of that parking lot.
Okay.
Which sounds like a good, reasonable safety, public safety issue there. And then also add a little bit more to their store as well.
I do know that the one lot that's on the corner there, C1, is owned by a Baptist church up in the interior. And that was my main concern on this, because if they did a driveway right across there, and I know they've tried to sell it, and I actually looked at purchasing at one point. So there's some real issues up there. But yeah, I'd feel a lot more comfortable
If we cut that,
if that whole corner was cut off
Yeah.
and that was made available to the
perhaps
owners.
whoever bought the top part, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
to
that
buy-
makes
to buy
sense to me
that.
too.
I mean, that just, and then my next question
cutting it
is,
off
how
here.
would they access that? Would they use the existing driveway?
How Hammers would?
Yeah.
Yeah, they would use, because they have all those lots above, so they could
Right.
use their existing, from their existing parking lot, come around behind.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
From that area they just filled.
That lower
Yeah, that
parking
lower
lot.
part where they just they put all that extra fill in.
Sorry, that-
Right.
But the request to subdivide, they didn't ask to subdivide. That's something that, as the borough, we're suggesting that we do it that way, just exactly for the reasons that Dave is saying. So since that part is on us, we're going to subdivide it, or at least recommend subdividing it before the sale.
And then I have another question. Is this any of the property that the city has put in a wetlands bank?
Not that I'm aware of.
From my perspective, I think this is a good thing to have happen. For safety purposes, as well as just being able to let the store improve its business plan.
This is outside of where the water main is going through there.
Yeah, that's way over.
It's over here.
It's over here, yeah.
And closer to the road.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that was my next question. I see that they've put, is that why they put in the gravel pad off of the road there?
Hammer Weekend?
No, it's.
Oh,
you
DOT?
make- DOT
No.
is.
Oh, I think, isn't that where the sign's going?
I think that's where the new Petersburg High School, the old Petersburg High School sign is getting
okay.
relocated to that spot.
To which,
Okay,
to which
okay.
spot?
Where they had that little gravel pad up.
Yeah.
Oh,
Pad
okay.
Right there.
And they had to move the
Oh, yeah.
sign for the bike
They got
path.
a roller on.
Yeah,
it.
they got the compactor sitting there, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a good idea as long as that one little dog leg by the other commercial lot there on the corner is not is split off. And those guys are given an option to purchase that.
Well, your motion's going to begin the process, so then we still have to do, the survey and the assessment and the
Yeah.
public hearing. And so there's going to be a whole public process following that. And then it's up to the assembly to decide whether the lot goes to public auction or whether there's a reason they wouldn't have a public auction. So anytime the borough sells property, it's generally a public auction. So.
Right.
So do we have a motion to initiate the subdivision and rezone?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mike,
Mike made the motion. Consideration of a request for extension of a variance for Alec and Teresa Funt to construct a carport at 205 Galveston Street. Discussion?
No, second.
Do we have any discussion first
Oh,
on it? Seeing there's no discussion, is there a motion to extend the variance?
Is it automatic for 1 year? Is it?
it's 1 year.
It's a 1 year extension.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then after 1 year, then they have to reapply if they don't construct it. Okay.
Correct. I think it's
Yeah, I
renewable
think
once.
it's renewable once, and then if they wanted to do it again, we would have to go through the whole public hearing
Mhm.
process again.
If they begin construction but don't have it done by the time the variance runs up? do they
I
I
get
think
to-
work has to commence is
Yeah.
all as it
Yeah,
says.
okay. That just
So
was,
They
They don't
just-
need to be completed.
that was just a clarification.
Correct, the work has to commence, and they,
Okay.
for whatever reasons, just couldn't get to her this year, but
Yeah.
they made it by a day.
So we have a motion?
I so move that we
Extend the variance?
extend the variance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any discussion items?
I assume it's for 12 months, right? 1 year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always in there,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Right.
Could be less.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
It's not.
Realistically.
It's not to
given the-
exceed.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
There's so many months that are
Yeah,
not buildable.
right. Any discussion items?
You skipped G.
G. Oh, we need an appointment of a planning commissioner for the Historic Preservation Committee. Any volunteers?
Joe.
I don't think we can do that.
Nice try.
Any nominations?
I think I scribbled it in there, yeah, when it was.
What are they doing?
I'm not exactly sure what the Historic Preservation Committee is doing.
I don't believe they have met yet.
So,
I don't think they've ever met.
They're advertising for people interested in.
Yeah.
They met
Serving.
10 years ago. I know they did.
It's the,
They disbanded it.
they disbanded, now they recreated it, but I don't think they've met since they were created.
Well, I was on it, and we met a couple of times, and it seemed to just float away.
Would you like to give it another shot?
Not really. It didn't seem to be very exciting to me. They were talking about how we encourage people to rose mall on their house and stuff.
so we have no volunteers and we have no nominations.
Well, I guess it'd be interesting to know what they're doing and what they're trying to do. Or maybe they don't even know that, I don't know.
As I said, I don't think they've met.
Maybe they could have someone come to our next meeting or whatever and explain to us what they're gonna do and why they want one of planning and zoning, or, I don't know.
It's in the ordinance, is why you're being
Oh.
asked to send somebody. Yeah.
So,
Mr. Chair, I suggest that we table this until they actually meet or have an actual historical preservation board.
I'll second that.
Can we do that?
I would suggest you postpone since table
Yeah.
is kind of forever.
Oh, okay, well, that's, well, okay.
I postpone when we bring it up to the next meeting and then discuss it then.
Yeah, well, I suggest we postpone it until the board actually is formed and meets.
It's formed. It's just I don't know if they have a quorum yet to meet.
Okay,
Thus, the desire to have another person assigned to it so that they have more members.
Would that get them to a quorum?
I don't know that. No.
I can make another suggestion. That they have one of their board members put their name in the hat for be on the planning and zoning. We could send it the other direction. Well, I mean, ideally, somebody that's on this board that has an interest in this would be nice to have a representation also on planning and zoning, because we need more board members. So,
This is true and gives me an opportunity to remind you to file your candidacy forms.
Yes.
yes, well, and while I was looking at this, I just thought that was also another opportunity to extend the option to maybe suggest that somebody that's on this board, you could send them an email and say that we need more members on planning and zoning. It'd be really nice if one of their board members would like to be the representative of planning and zoning on their board, and they could also be on the planning and zoning board as well.
I can send that email.
I think that's a great idea.
Why don't we send that email and then see what the response is and have discussion at a later meeting. We have a motion?
I don't know that you need a motion for that, but
We don't need a motion for that?
not an email.
Okay.
No.
I don't think so.
All right.
Got one more.
Yeah.
I went down and signed up for this next election.
Mhm.
And I run into a few years back where we didn't have very many people then also, but it ended up that two of us were running for the same year appointment, and so one of us lost, and
Mhm.
so don't sign up for what somebody else has, because you'll be running against each other.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should make sure you are signed up for one of the open slots.
Well, even if you sign up for the same open slot, then but what I had talked to Debbie about that, and she said if there's a conflict of people signing up for the same one, she will notify them to say, hey, would you take this seat? Or,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
That's good.
that's
Okay.
because of that, what happened in the past. She's going to try to keep it to where we can fill all the seats and not have a conflict.
Good.
Where you just don't put what seat you want, and then they'll call and make that arrangement.
Which one did you sign up for?
I did just what he said to do.
Oh,
Don't,
He said,
you
don't
don't
sign
have
me
to.
up yet until
Oh, I see.
everybody's signed
Yeah.
up.
okay, I see.
And then you can call.
They'll
and say,
assign
"Do
a
you want
slot
the 2 year,
says-
the
Oh, no,
3
no,
year?"
sign
Yeah.
the slide, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
just so we don't run into that problem of people running against each other if there's open seats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to run too, and this one, but just
Yeah.
run for the same seat.
No, just leave it blank.
Just leave it
Just
blank.
leave it blank
Just
and
leave
they'll
it blank.
they'll
Yeah, it
assign
says what seat, your term,
Right.
just leave that blank, and then
Okay.
she'll call you and tell you what seat isn't, what do you want, a 2-year or 3-year? And then she'll organize it to where it'll all, it may end up that there's more people sign up for candidacy, that there'll have to be people running against each other. But it hasn't been the case in the past.
In your dreams.
Well, when I talked to her it was last week, she said that the only 2 people that put in any kind of applications for candidacy were Otis and myself for any seat in any board. That's how little participation was as of last Thursday or Friday,
When's the deadline?
the 25th, I believe,
Mhm.
of this month.
Yeah, it's end of August.
So, oh boy, if you can talk people into signing up for any board or commission or whatever, we need people, instead of going through the whole letter of interest, and then the appointment, and then they have to go on the next election, and
Yeah.
just need to encourage people to get involved.
Any additional discussion items?
I had one. I was wondering what Jim decided to do, or did you put in a letter of resignation, or?
Well, I will. I mean, yeah, definitely. I'm
I
gone.
just assume you stick
I
around,
you
but-
know, I brought it up at the last minute, last meeting.
Yeah.
I thought assumed it would be incorporated in the minutes, and that would be the deal. But yeah,
When are you leaving?
as soon as I get a few loose ends taken care of,
Okay,
hopefully the end of the week,
okay.
beginning next week, whatever.
Yeah, if we could at least get an email, because it needs to go to the assembly for them to accept the letter of resignation.
Okay, and
You can email me or Karen.
okay,
It doesn't have to be too elaborate unless you want it to be.
no.
And then we can try and get that seat on the ballot
Mhm.
so that we don't have to appoint.
Okay, if there's no other date,
So how many open seats do we have?
6.
6.
If we count Jim, it'll be 6. Right now it's 5.
Okay. Yeah, I'll make a motion to adjourn. That's what you were thinking about.
I was gonna say, if there's no other discussion items,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.